A huge win in the standings. Tage Thompson goes off. We'll talk about it coming up on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome in. Friday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can watch our show on YouTube. Hit the like and subscribe button if you are watching along. Want to be a part of our Locked On Sabres Everydayer Club? You could do that too. You get ad-free versions of this show. You get access to our Discord where we were talking about some Panarin trade stuff a little bit earlier on today and plenty of other stuff. You get rumors from me once in a while when you hear things here and there. You can sign up for that. LockedOnSabres.supercast.com. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LockedOnNHL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Sneaky Joe DiBiase, the Sabres get the win over Montreal. We'll talk about the game from Tage Thompson that we saw, all the festivities. A little bit later on, as we were talking about in the Discord, I want to bring a little bit on the Panarin subject today because there is an update on that. The New York Rangers and Chris Drury, with the fans chanting "Fire Drury" the other night, released a letter today which basically says they're going to rebuild, and that's about to happen, even though they don't want to admit. What is wrong with teams and not wanting to admit to language, but yet doing it the same way? It's like when Kevin Adams. Let me save the rant for a little bit later on because we got a lot to get to on the forefront here. So, a lot to get to. And the Sabres with that win, if you were looking at the standings, maybe you were just staring at the standings all morning. I kind of did that. I had the tab open. I'm doing the morning show with Jeremy for WGR. And normally I have a couple of tabs open. Like I'll have Twitter open. I'll have, if we're talking football, which, we're doing a lot because it's Bills, Broncos, it's the playoffs. I'll get next gen stats open. I'll get some of the rankings from what Denver is and what the Bills are and stats and, roster stuff. And that's usually when we're just talking football. I'll usually close all the hockey tabs when we're doing that. The one tab I just couldn't bring myself to close today, NHL standings. It's because, every minute or two, every 5 minutes, just click over there, look at it for 4 seconds. All right, click back. The Sabres are in the first wild card position. It's not even as much about that because their positioning didn't really change with the win last night. The division. Click the division tab and look at where the Atlantic currently sits. It is competitive. This division right now is competitive. It is totally different than what I thought it was setting up to be and what many thought it was setting up to be. I thought that this division was going to stink this year, honestly. And at the beginning of the year, that was true. That was definitely true. Like first month or two, remember the Sabres weren't that far out, even before they had gone on this streak of 15 wins now and in 17 games. And part of that was the teams above them weren't really doing well either. And Toronto was down in the dumps and Boston was starting to fade. And, lately, everybody's winning. The Red Wings have been winning, and Tampa is on an 11-game win streak. Montreal had been winning before last night. Boston's on a 5-game win streak. So it's good they went on this streak because a bad or even a 500 streak during 17 games here, and they'd be really out of it. It's taken everything from this team just to be in the mix, but they are at the moment 3 points back of Montreal with 2 games in hand. They are 4 back of Detroit with 2 games in hand. And that is why yesterday was so big. And also it was so big to win the game in regulation. So we'll get to what we saw. But first, what a night. What a job by the Buffalo Sabres. They have really been hitting it out of the park with presentations, theme nights since the Dominik Hasek retirement ceremony, which is over a decade ago now, which was putrid. And since then, they have different people running things, and they're doing way, way better. And last night, 05-06 reunion night, and I thought they hit it out of the park. You had the players coming out on skates, which I thought was really cool, and I didn't expect that. I was wondering because there was no carpet that was going from the bench area to the middle of the ice. So I'm thinking, what are they doing here? And then Max Afinogenov is the first player that they introduced. And sure enough, he is skating out to center, which I thought was a really cool ad. And also Sabretooth rappelling from the rafters the way he did that season. Incredible. The atmosphere in the arena was awesome. Big ovations for really all of the players. Miller got the biggest, I think. Vanek got a big one. Pominville a big one. Afinogenov got a big one. He went first in the order. They started with Afinogenov and they ended with Miller. I thought that was a pretty cool way to go about it. So that was great. The ceremony, it's funny when they did pan over to Lindy Ruff, like, and the head coach of the 0506 Sabres, Lindy Ruff, and we go to the current bench where he was standing behind the players from right now. And Lindy told a bunch of good stories, by the way. Like, if you missed Lindy at the end, I did tweet it out at Sneaky Joe Sports, so if you follow me, maybe you saw it. Lindy, at the end of his press conference last night, told a story about Max Afinogenov, and it was about how he had been hard on him. And, he had always wondered, not just about Afinogenov, but other players. I'm sure Vanek maybe was on his mind for this too. Like, was I too hard on guys? And he's always wondered that because he was a lot harder on players back then than he is right now. And he said that it warmed his heart that Afinogenov brought him as a gift, like the nicest bottle of Russian vodka that you can get. Like, just, a cool little story from Lindy about connecting with those guys and kind of, feeling good things about, like, maybe I did the right thing. And Afinogenov has given him credit for, even though he pushed him really hard, like that it helped him throughout the rest of his career, which, remember, like, his NHL career didn't last forever. He was done by the time he was about like 30, 31, but he played in the KHL until he was 40. So I thought that was a really, really cool story. And it was funny when he was talking about Afinogenov taking 3-minute shifts and how that would drive him nuts. So you got a lot of good nostalgic stories over the day. A lot of players were talking. Maybe you got a chance to get an autograph somewhere along the way. I thought they did a great, great job. Wearing black and red last night, of course, too. Had to do that. It was great. Danny Briere narrating the intro video. Awesome to see him involved. And, he's the GM of the Flyers, so he's busy and it's understandable why he couldn't be there. So for him to do that, he really is, he's been, I'll say this because I'll say it. I was really disappointed that there was zero Chris Drury involvement. I didn't necessarily expect him to be there because he's got the same excuse that Briere does or Mike Greer does. Like, he's a GM, he's working, he's busy. And again, we'll talk about the Rangers in a little bit. He's got a lot going on there in New York, and they're not good things. So I get that, but nothing. Not, hey, let me record a 20-second video. Let me write a letter to post on social media. Anything. What's the least amount you could do? Anything. Nothing from Chris Drury. And I don't know what's going on there. Like, it seems like there's bad blood between him and the organization. And does that extend beyond who was in charge, Golisano and Darcy Regier and Larry Quinn, to the current ownership and the current management? I mean, I guess it could. I guess it's got to. Or he just doesn't care or doesn't respect it. I don't know what the reason is, and I don't really care. Like, do something. It's a big night for the fans. It's a big night for all those guys that were together, and you were a co-captain. You were a leader of that team. And, like, the way I look at it right now is, all right, Chris Drury and Danny Briere were co-captains when that team was together and playing. And every day since, Danny Briere is the captain of that team. Right? Every day since 2006, Danny Briere is the captain of that team. And he won't have a night like that go by and not be involved to some degree. And I can appreciate that from Danny Briere. And I'm really disappointed that just nothing from Drury. Nothing. Radio silent. Again, we got more on him, though, in a little bit. Things are not going well in New York. In the game itself, we'll talk about what we saw. Tage is where we're going to lead off. A 5-point night for Tage Thompson. One more non-on the ice thing, although it does relate to something that did happen on the ice. So I was sitting lower bowl over by the net that the Canadiens shot twice on. And that side of the rink was filled with Habs fans. A lot of Montreal fans there. Thousands, right? Like, not Toronto level, but a couple thousand Habs fans, and they were all kind of concentrated, I thought, in one area. And they got a couple of go Habs go chants going. And part of me thought, maybe you shouldn't have done this against Montreal because, you were going to have some fans take over the building. I liked it, though. I like it when Toronto was in there. It's not 70%, hopefully, though. It's like 40%. I like that because you get that back and forth energy and it can juice up the crowd a little bit more. And that happened. Like every time Montreal fans were rolling on a go Habs go chant, like Sabre fans were like, oh, wait a minute. And then they would get loud. So I think sometimes that can be a good thing, and it doesn't have to be the end of the world. I know the Sabres don't want that, but, I get it. And also, it was a pretty cool moment, I thought, where in the third period, we're tied at 3, and it's about 5 minutes into the third, and one of the loudest Go Habs Go chants of the night is going. And Tage walks into the zone and fires one past Fowler. Excuse me, I almost forgot his name. Fires one past Fowler as that's ongoing, just to shut him up right then and there. Like, oh, that was awesome. The game was chippy too, right? Like on the ice too. Greenway and Gallagher going nose to nose at one point. After Gallagher, to me, it looked like headbutted Greenway, but yet Greenway was the only one who got the penalty. No, I have to correct that. That's what we thought was happening, and then they did actually give Gallagher a penalty. They had only announced it as Greenway in the building, which is why still in my head he was the only one, but they did matching minors there. So there was that. Zhekov and Greenway, I thought were going to fight at any moment, and Zhekov hitting Zucker from behind, coincidental. Lindy even called it out. Lindy said, he wanted to make it look like it was an accidental on purpose, and that he knew what he was doing. And I am totally with him. You watch that replay, he absolutely was trying to hit Jason Zucker and make it look like he wasn't trying. Dirty play, I thought. From a guy that's pretty dirty, by the way, so it's not really that surprising. Zucker took a beating in that game. He took that hit. He blocked a crazy shot later after Colten Ellis had been scrambling around, and while he was down, Zucker batted it out of the zone. So a really good night for him, too, on that end. And more to get to on what we saw in the game. But I did like the crowd, even though, there were a couple thousand Hab fans in there. When we come back, Tage's night, Doan, his night, and the power play, 4 goals in 2 games. More, and I got a little more to say on Ellis. That when we return on Locked On Sabres. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Indeed. If you're hiring someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for. Trust Indeed sponsored jobs. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and will help you reach the right candidates faster. If you need to hire someone, you go straight to Indeed. Be very specific about what you need, real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get it seen, Indeed sponsored jobs will help your listing stand out and it'll reach quality candidates a lot faster. Sponsored jobs will boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that'll make a real difference. According to Indeed, sponsored jobs post directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now. Support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Sabres win 5-3 over the Montreal Canadiens. How about 16-6-2 at home, by the way, this year? They closed the gap to 3 points with the Habs with 2 games in hand. So by points percentage, they are very, very close to where Montreal is. Couple more wins and they could be there. 2 more games against Montreal this month. The next one will be in Montreal. So in this game, no doubt the story is Tage. Tage Thompson with a 5-point night. And all of them were big. All of them. He carried them in this game offensively. I thought overall they did play well, though. They outshot Montreal. They had the good amount. Actually, they had more shot attempts than Montreal did. Scoring chances were pretty even. They were up in a lot of categories. in this game. I thought they controlled a lot of the pace, but it was definitely back and forth. Like, it was not a one-sided affair on either end. These are two fast, young teams. The speed last night was really on display. Like, we know the Sabres are a fast team, that almost everybody on their team is a good skater. But Montreal has got that too. Like, they're young and they're quick. I mean, that 2-on-1 they come down on to open the scoring. Caulfield can zoom, and he gets his own rebound there, and he puts one past Colten Ellis, and he's a great goal scorer in his own right. Suzuki too. Like, they've just got Lane Hudson. They've got guys that can move all over the roster. So I thought a really good pace to the game, back and forth, and I could just envision these two teams being really good at the same time for a long time, if, the Sabres can manage that going forward. Because I think Montreal is here to stay. I think they're a good team that has some staying power, more so than I think Detroit has, for sure. So last night, you get that game, you get some chippiness, like, oh, we could have a little bit of a rivalry maybe starting to build here. They never let it get away from them. And they had to battle back a couple of times. I mean, 1-0 right out of the gates. You got a lot of Montreal fans in the crowd, and they're energized by that goal. And you might be thinking, oh, no, okay. First, all the numbers about how often the team that scores first wins hockey games. And bam, less than a minute later, Tage, power play. You get the power play, and we know they've struggled a lot. But 2 games now, 4 goals since we talked about it and did a deep dive about how bad it had been, 1 for 21 going into the last 2 nights. Tage on the power play, again, directness, shoot it. And he finds that gap between the defenseman's legs down on one knee. He beats Fowler clean with an amazing shot. Ostlund with a really good setup, by the way. He was on the number 1 power play unit yesterday, and I liked it. He had 2 assists. He also had an assist on the Doan goal. I thought he moved the puck pretty well. He had one really good one-timer opportunity that I would have liked him to do a lot better with. He shot it right at Fowler's logo. So you got to do better there. But in terms of distributing and keeping plays alive, I think Ostlund did a really, really nice job in this game, and he had the great setup there to Tage. The play he makes on the Doan goal also is really nice, because then we move along 5 minutes later, 2 power play goals in the span of 6.5 minutes. Doan on this one, and this is just a nice play by Doan. His 15th of the year, by the way. What a move to, you're standing there and you might have the urge to force a pass somewhere, but you know what? Let me take this to the net. And but he's given me a little bit of room over the shoulder to have the confidence to get that shot past him and roof it when there's only a little bit of space. Takes a lot. And Doan really nailed it. So great effort from him. If I suggested the other day that they take him off the number 1 unit, I take that back, even if it was only a suggestion, because they definitely should not do that. He's been great. And, man, the numbers for him are getting to be out of this world. I mean, he's 3rd on the team in points, behind only Tage and Tuch. 34 points in 46 games. I mean, he's on a 60-point track in his first year as a Buffalo Sabre. I mean, that's nuts how good he's been. So he keeps rolling. Power play gets a couple. And then you get Montreal answering with a power play of their own, a 5-on-3. So, again, like, it's kind of a very back-and-forth first period. When Nick Suzuki scores another power play goal, you had 4 straight power play goals in this game to make it 3-2. Like some past Sabre teams that maybe weren't playing with as much confidence, they might have folded a little bit there. This Sabres team, I thought, really controlled play after that goal went in. Like, okay, now we're down. No panic. Let's go fight and get that back. And I thought they played really well after the Suzuki goal. And it led to the rush where Tage, again, like, Tage gets the goal on the first one. He makes a nice pass to Doan from the wall on the power play to get his first assist of the night in the second one. The third one is all Tage. I mean, this is stick handling and knowing where your defender is in relation to you, and his hips are flipped the wrong way. So I go from right to left where there's space, and I drive down the middle. I suck the defenseman in to where I am, and then at the perfect time when he's committed to me, I pass it off to Tuch for a one-timer, and Tuch's got to blast it. He's got to score the goal, and he does a great job. But Tage, man, what an assist he makes on the third goal to tie the hockey game. And then in the third, the goal he scores from Doan. That's a great play from Krebs on the wall to keep the play alive and keep it in the zone. They did need a bad turnover from, I believe it was Lane Hudson on that one to get it to Doan. And then just a very quick and no hesitation. This puck is going to come to you from a short distance because Doan and Tage, like, it's kind of a 2-on-1, but it's not really because they're very close together. And Doan to Tage, he's got to fire it immediately. And he does, and he beats Fowler clean. I mean, it felt like almost every shot he was going to take that night was going to find the back of the net. Even that one-timer that he really leaned into on one of their other power plays that hit the post. I mean, that thing, how does that not go in? He was just on fire in this game. And then finally he gets the empty netter after an amazing effort from Zach Benson to close the game out. And that was getting nervy, right? Like Montreal had started spending a lot of time in the Buffalo end near the end of that game. I thought they were doing a good job blocking shots. But man, Colten Ellis is a wild man. He is nuts. He's the wild card from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You know, he is, you're up 1 and he's kicking the door out of the back of the van and jumping out. I mean, what he's doing, turning the puck over right to Montreal, coming way out of the net. And then as he's backing up, he makes the save, which was crazy, and can't cover it because apparently that's his kryptonite, covering the puck, which is nuts. Makes a save on the other side, can't cover it, falls down. I mean, it's just a scramble. That was the play I talked about earlier that Zucker got it out on. When that guy's in your goal, anything could happen, and that empty netter felt. Thank goodness. I don't think, by the way, Ellis played bad. He's crazy. I compared him last night kind of half-kiddingly to rookie Josh Allen because I feel like he kind of does the hard stuff. He does the impressive stuff. He's making great saves. Those side-to-side saves that he's made this year, showing off that athleticism and quickness, are awesome. Why can't he cover the puck? I don't know. I actually wondered, in fact, I should text Owen Parker, our producer and former goalie from the morning show on WGR. Wonder if it's because he wears like all black pads. Is that a theory? I mean, last night that would be the case. When they're wearing blue and gold, it wouldn't. But is it harder for him to track the puck and cover it when it's around him when his pads are dark black? Not that there's any other kind of black, by the way. Like, there's no, yeah, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, is there something to that? It's weird. It's very, very, very weird. The easiest thing you would think that a goalie could do is the thing that he struggles with. Otherwise, I liked him. I thought he made some good saves on the game. I would go back to Luukkonen probably in the next one. But anyways, we were talking about Tage. And getting that empty netter because of all of that goalie stuff that I was thinking made me a lot more comfortable, made everybody a lot more comfortable, and got the hat trick. And man, there were a lot of hats that hit the ice. I can't remember the last time I was in the building for a hat trick. It felt like more hats than I had remembered from whenever the last time that was. And you had big USA chants, which that makes sense, right? Like, you've got a lot of Montreal fans in your building, and you got US Canada then. You got a lot of Canadians in your building. They're the Canadiens, if you want that. And Tage is going to the Olympics. So big USA chants last night after he scored that goal, and the Sabres got the win. Great effort overall. Great night. One of the best nights to be in the building in the arena this year. Maybe it was number one, although they did score 9 in a game I was there against Chicago. That was pretty good too. And again, massive in the standings. And get 2 more, you control your own destiny against Montreal. So keep that rolling. What a game. 5-3 over Montreal. Some of the quick stats of the game before we get to Artemi Panarin and what's going on with the Rangers. Tage had 5 points on the night. The only other players with multi-points were Josh Doan, who we mentioned, the goal and the assists, and Ostlund, who had 2 assists on the power play goals. I saw a good Twitter conversation today about who Ostlund reminds you of, like who's his comparable, who his peak is that he could become in the NHL. And I'm workshopping that because I thought it was a good question. The first name that came to mind for me was Dylan Larkin for Noah Ostlund. And, you know, like, I don't know. The size is close enough. They were drafted very similarly spots. They're very good skaters. They're good defensively. Ostlund, I think, is good defensively. I might want to read up more on how Larkin is at this point. Defensively, his numbers this year are bad in his own end, but they've been a lot better in past years. So maybe Larkin, because, you know, that's what's Larkin. He's a 60, 70 point guy. He's a 1B, 2A type of centerman. Like on a not so great team is your number 1 center, and on a great team is your number 2 center. Maybe that's a good one. Let me know if you got a guy that comes to mind for you on like who Noah Ostlund reminds you of, or who his peak, you know, would look like. Let me know what you think. My leader in the clubhouse at the moment is Dylan Larkin. 2 more assists for him on the night. When we come back, Quick thought on the Rangers and the Panarin trade idea, which got a little bit of an update today. That when we return on Locked On Sabres. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL playoffs are rolling. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel's giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users will get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day. See what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're back in momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feeling bigger and boosts making you feel that way too. You make your picks, apply your profit boost, go even bigger on the payouts while the playoffs are rolling. So visit FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Sabres win 5-3 over the Montreal Canadiens. I wanted to spend a few minutes, though, on another team, the New York Rangers, who are in a free fall. They have been playing like garbage for weeks now. The Sabres, of course, beating them a couple of games ago. They've had bad losses. They gave up 10 to the Boston Bruins. The Saturday after they lost 5-2 to Buffalo, they gave up 8 to the Ottawa Senators. I mean, their last 4 games, 5 to Buffalo, 10 to Boston, 4 to Seattle, and 8 to Ottawa. We're talking about 27 goals given up in a 4-game stretch. That is insane. And sure, they've had some injuries, but they are in a tailspin. They are a non-threat this season, and they know it, and they basically announced it. Chris Drury writing a letter to the fans. They posted it on social media that the team is going for a retool, and they are going to be trading away some of those players that have been very important to them in recent years. Again, the semantics with, oh, we're not rebuilding. This is not a rebuild. That line in there, this is not a rebuild. It's a retool. These teams are having this refusal to admit to language that is 100% accurate. The thing I almost got rolling on at the beginning of the show is when Kevin Adams was talking to a million teams about trading Casey Middlestat a couple of years ago, and he took such great offense to the idea that he was shopping Casey Middlestat. Like, I don't use the word shopping. Like, okay, you're talking to 7 teams about Casey Middlestat. What do you think shopping is? That's shopping. Okay, because you didn't make the first call on 3 of them. Like, it's shopping. Just admit to it. These teams are so weird like that. And here's Drury doing the same thing. But the bigger news is, and the big part of the news that goes along with this letter, is that the Rangers will not be offering a contract extension to Artemi Panarin, and that they are going to work with him to trade him to a destination that he wants to go. So Panarin's on the market. Like before, when we talked about it, like it was an idea and there were rumors and reports about it, but now like it's happening. He is going to be traded 100%. So now we really got to get the ball rolling on what it will take. And we'll do a whole episode on this again. And also probably between games, when maybe we have a couple of days between games, we'll take, hopefully he's not traded before then. Who else is in the mix for that? That's what I spent a lot of today looking at. Not quite yet. Like, okay, what should they really offer here? What's this going to cost? And how much of it is worth it with him being on an expiring deal? Should they care about the fact that he's on an expiring deal and the odds they probably won't sign him? Today, though, it was more about who's going to get him. And I was reading through a bunch of articles about, who makes the most sense and teams that have been rumored and teams that are rumored to be active. And what I found is there are a couple of Atlantic teams that are being mentioned the most. And my goal, if I were the Sabres, would be to get him. But if I don't get him, I'm hoping and praying he's not going to get traded in the division or to a team that's in the race with the Sabres. Florida, I've seen mentioned as a team. Long-term IR. It's the last year they can really utilize that. If they can create cap space some way, shape, or form there, then maybe they could find a way to work Panarin into the mix there. Now, they don't have as many prospects, and they don't have as many picks. Detroit, I also saw mentioned. I did also see Montreal mentioned. So those are a couple of teams that are Tampa was the only one I saw that was like around the Sabres in the standings that I did not see mentioned. But maybe Toronto's in it. Maybe Boston ends up in the mix. I did see the Sabres listed a lot because we know the connection between Jarmo Kekalainen and Artemi Panarin, how Jarmo traded for him with only 2 years left in his contract in Columbus many, many years ago. So we know Jarmo likes him and finds him to be a great player, but what about on an expiring deal? We'll talk about it, but if you missed that today, like the Rangers are trading him. And I guess, by the way, in all of this as well, Chris Drury is going to get the chance to see through this rebuild. I mean, I thought he'd be fired. And maybe he still would at the end of the year, but it would be strange to have the season be an admitted defeat already, not fire him, and also allow him to make big trades like he's about to make, including the one with Panarin. The best thing the Sabres need, I think, to land Panarin, honestly, is Panarin to make it clear to teams that he's going to test free agency. And maybe that would make you more nervous because it would eliminate the chance the Sabres could sign him too before free agency. But like, I think if you're the Sabres, you know that's your situation. You know he's not coming back to you in free agency. Whereas Florida might not think that. Montreal might not think that. Detroit might not think that. Like, these teams would be thinking, well, we're going to trade for him and we're going to sign him. But if he makes it clear to you, no, I'm not doing that, then suddenly I think the Sabres' price and what they would pay would be more in line with what those teams would, because everybody now would be on the same playing field, bidding things for a rental Panarin, not just or not a long-term Panarin. All right, more on that though on a future show. We'll of course talk about it because he's definitely the number one name to talk about in the league on the trade market right now. He's got a connection to the Sabres GM. All right, that'll do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Kids Day tomorrow afternoon against Minnesota. Bills play after that, so it should be a really fun day on the Buffalo sports scene. So enjoy it, and we will talk at some point over the weekend and into Monday morning about the Minnesota game and what we see going into a big road trip. Sabres have 5 in a row on the road after this Minnesota game. Talk to you then here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Be sure to get into our Locked On Sabres Everydayers Club. You can go to lockedonsabres.supercast.com, our Discord, ad-free version of the show, and more. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network.